Welcome back to the channel, Kimyo and Space Cadets. Now, there are a ton of things I want to cover with this review, so do me a favor, like the video, and if you enjoyed the video, consider sharing with friends. Now, with that out of the way, let's get started with the title dissection. The title of the episode is called Merlin Gift. Now, Merlin is mostly known for the middle part of his life, where he was the advisor and wizard to the King Arthur himself. He led Arthur to his destiny, in which he pulled the legendary blade Excalibur out. For those who have been here, you know I won't be satisfied with just stopping there. A man cannot only be judged by his achievements, but how he became who he was. And so Merlin was said to be born from a demon in a human. In this case, if we translate that to Ordeal, to be a Kimyo in a human, it was said that he was guided by forces beyond comprehension, neither good nor evil. There is an earlier account where Merlin was regarded as a druid who fled into the woods after his general failed in battle. In those woods, he is regarded as someone who wandered in his madness, but also regarded as someone who spoke in riddles as well. Truly someone who moves between the world of man and prophecy. Now, this episode covers the very gift he provides to Thanatos himself. There is a theory post recap regarding Merlin, so I hope you enjoy it. But with the title partially broke down, we will save the rest for the theory itself. Now, with that out of the way, let's recap the events of the episode. As a KODE vessel flies at supersonic speeds over the domain of Vedic Lord of the Seas, peering into the designated flying ship, as we see the calming demeanor of Shay while hiding his fury as he looks down, stating, "Abel Legoslav, huh? Who would have guessed it?" As we see the document provided by Jen stating, "Been detained or issued a warrant for their arrest in relation to the September 9th Brian Lara Stadium incident, citing involvement or previous foreknowledge. These individuals must and will be allowed a formal hearing as their rights have been acknowledged." As we see the name of incriminated individuals associated with the document as Gary, completely in disbelief but hardened with conviction, states, "No one," reflecting on his own inadequacies. No, lamenting on his powerlessness in the situation. As Gary states, half the cabinet is tainted. They all sided with him. The Shadow. Who knows why? Out of fear? For money? Whatever their reasons, it makes no difference to me. They will all pay for betraying our home." As he continues, Head Chancellor Abel has had underhanded dealings with them for some time, it seems. I just know he has something to gain from it. What I don't understand is why K.O.D.E bowed to him. Something to do with bloodline close to Thanatos? It's all blurry. Affected by the weight of being associated with a prestigious clan, Lord Heart Fury hides a hint of sadness as he says, "A bloodline, huh? Abel Legoslav. Perhaps you know where Thanatos hides." As we arrive at Trinidad and Tobago, Port of Spain at 10:34 p.m. as it rains heavily. We peer down to Brandon himself as he observes Shay and Mr. Choi ready to depart the aircraft. As Brandon states, "Attention, make way for Head of Security Gary Choi and Head of the First Table Lord Shay Hart." Continuing with, "I'm sure all of you have heard the unchecked misuse of political power in our nation's capital is far more sinister than one could imagine. These two will spearhead the new plan to exterminate the vermin responsible." As he continues, "They are seniors to those of us gathered here. Look at them as we move forward." Saddened to make the gazes of the man he has disappointed, Gary states, "Greetings, gentlemen. My gratitude to the Greyhound Commander Brandon Gale for keeping things in order in my absence." Reflecting on the way others may view him as he hides the scars of decayed flesh, as he states, "But I must correct you. I am minister no longer. I lost that title with a betrayal. I was once your chief officer, and I know what you have heard of me should have broken your trust entirely." As he attempts to finish, "Even though I was exonerated, the damage cannot be." Standing at attention, ready to weather Mother Nature herself, as the soldiers share the same sentiment, stating, "Welcome back, Minister Choi. It is an honor to work under you again, sir. You are our commanding officer then, and you are the same man now. None standing here believe your charges when they were announced." As the rain masks the tears of a broken man, as the man loyally states, "Please allow us to serve under you again." As Brandon states, "Minister, your battle uniform, sir." Acknowledging his old weight and his new conviction, Gary states, Straight to work we go." Rating himself mentally by putting on his suit, Gary states, "Cole should have briefed you on what really took place 8 months ago. 5 members of your legislature have committed great acts of treason. You was told I was responsible for the bombing, but the mass murder of several thousands of our citizens was orchestrated by Abel Legoslav and Minister Sonia Olsen, Dante Smith, Rajani Bart, and Amari Green." Continuing with, "It was a business transaction with a Shadow and his men, an illegal alliance that so carefully visits our island ever so often. The institution of our government has fallen. That leaves us, the military, as the only law that remains. Now, I will hunt those responsible. They will all wish they had not been born." Raising his hat, Gary states, My home, no, our home, has been taken by wild dogs who clad themselves in suits and sit at the head of our tables. These dogs left no scraps, yet that was never enough for them. They began to feast at their own people, growing fat on our flesh. Truly, it would be wise to remove myself from this investigation after 8 months in chains, but my code of ethics died in that cell as he looks at every soldier drawing his pistol, solidifying the route he is more willing to take rather than diplomacy. Shocked at the speech given in times of war as the soldiers carry on business as usual, as Gary continues. Round up, gentlemen. Where the minister goes, we follow. We have some cleaning up to do. Completely hardened by the turn of events, Tevin calls out to his brother Shay, breaking his apple. Shay, Tevin immediately expresses, we have a problem, brother. As Shay asks, what is it? Are you okay? Where's Kiko? Completely worried, Tevin states, that's the problem. As the worst news comes to the ear of Shay, we've been waiting on details since we arrived. We cannot locate you, Kiku, nor Azam. Breaking eye contact with Shay, Tevin states that they were Titans here. The last recorded transmission said Azam neutralized the phone. They were awaiting evac, but they lost communication. Continue with the Greyhounds are heading there soon. You and I will go ahead. We know where they're supposed to be, but it seems like they just vanished. As former commander Brandon walks over, Tevin states, I've been keeping up with the team on site. They've been updating me every 3 minutes. Still, no sign of them. Did they shelter in the building with no signal or something? Tevin asks, how about chi signatures? As Brandon states, hold on. It just pinged an Amber Alert. Horrified at the turn of events as Tevin states, Lieutenant, what is it? Cutting the tension with the chainsaw, Brandon states, they checked the database for the last chi signature recorded before Yukiko and Azam vanished. The chi that showed up on the scanner belonged to the Shadow. Quicker than the Greyhounds can discern, without hesitation, pushing their bodies to the very limit in hopes of arriving before it's too late. As Brandon states, all troops report to transport immediately. High tier level threat detected at the site previously. Move. Shifting over to Saskalion, Scotland, in the Minerals Mountains hovers another air vessel over a mountain of green. As Grimboy Jen states, down there, as we see Eric scanning the area, as he says, impossible, it should not be here. The rings makes no sense. When I first detected the signal, I didn't believe it myself until I came out here as he finds a 100% chi signature match. As he thinks, why would you show up now? We've searched for you for years. All of a sudden, you reveal yourself? Eric, completely lost in thought, failed to realize the other pillars landed as Jen says, Eric. As Junie said, Shihalion, such beautiful mountains. It would be romantic if we weren't in battle outfits with dirty boots. Ah yes, we do need a vacation, don't we, Junie? Eric says without breaking his focus. As Jen states, I prefer retirement. Nevertheless, your SOS said it was urgent. We came as soon as possible. What is it, Eric? As Eric states, have a look at these charts. Tell me what you see, Grimboy. You've been following a specific signal and it led you to the spot. It seems to have been generated from these mountains. What does this mean for us? As Eric states, it means this place now becomes KODE's top priority. As Junie asks, what is it exactly you tracked here? As we peer over the confidential site of KODE abandoned mining facility number 00218, as Eric says, a weapon, Junie. Continuing with the Merlin Stone, a talent object older than Thanatos himself. It was a key instrument to his reign thousands of years ago, and no one knows when it arrived on the earth. It possesses a void talent within a realm large enough to house an entire kingdom. It is a portal to another world called Merlin's Dimension. Continuing with, whoever wields the stone possesses the ability to move freely between our reality and inside the stone. We believe time functions differently there. One of the original Thanatos vessels found it. He used it to hide his entire army in the Merlin's Dimension. The stone itself is the key and is wielded the doorway. Once in hand, its user can enter this void and exit anywhere on this planet they choose. Its potential is endless. As Holder states, KODE archives say Malhazar was buried with it. He instructed his family to conceal his tomb and place the stone within it. The mining site must have disturbed it. The tomb of Lord Malhazar, the Invictus vessel, must be in these mountains, and these reasons indicate the stone is right beneath us. As Jen says, KODE farmed minerals for years here, but abandoned it after 2 decades. Why didn't the stone release any chi during the entire operation? 20 years of workers in and out of this site, yet the stone went undetected until now? Tander responds, but perhaps it was dormant. Kane searched for it. This would have been the last place he'd think to look. Once again, Malhazar won us another advantage. Uni states, Thanatos may be strong, but his fear of being ambushed by powerful Kimyo led him to hide routinely. Hiding in the Merlin Dimension helped him evade capture until Lord Malhazar broke the cycle. What is your next move, Eric? I assume finding and securing the stone is top priority, as Eric states. Correct. Continuing with, He's gone years without it, but I know he greatly desired to get his hands on it once again. If we detect his chi, so has he. He will come for it, and I assure you, that will not be an easy battle. We must move quickly, as Jen states. We must get a message to Lord Hart immediately. Holder then states, yes, code confidentiality has been breached. There are few we can trust with this. As a portal of pure chi opens in front of the pillars, completely caught by surprise as the Kimyo reeking out death and negative chi emerged. As he states, the first table, I've desired to meet you, so that I might feel the weight of your chi. As Tando completely loses his cool, impossible, the Merlin stone? As the Kimyo Thanatos says, you see the stone? Yes, I too was shocked when it revealed itself, but you seem to have been far too slow arriving here. I knew his presence would draw you all here like moths to a flame, and I will be generous enough to allow you to see it with your own eyes. And besides, I've been feeding off the chi of these weak soldiers. The generation truly have grown fragile, but your chi first table will bring me closer to my former glory, as episode 137 of Ordeal comes to an end. Now, with the end of the episode, let's talk about the episode itself. Now, the first is the document that Shay is observing, which holds Easter eggs, which is hilarious. We have Hitokami Gagura from Angel Slayer. We got Getsuka Tenslaw from Pine Soul. We even got Futar Rasen Shuriken from Jiguto. Now, we also have the different ministers being represented as shown in previous seasons, like Rajani's, Sonya, Dante, Amir Green. We also see Abel on that list as well. And so in season 2, we do see that Abel disliked the Kimyo waste, which is publicly known, as even Ian questions if he really hates the Kimyos in episode 47 when they're at Patmos. Now, we do get a blanked out name, and if you were paying attention in episode 128, Richard Durtreville was killed by Titan, which would lead me to believe that he is the man on the document with the crossed out name. It seems we got our replacement for Ian this episode as Gary Choi. Ian often trusted the Cubs, but always led them down to a path of righteousness post Leo, and the moral compass allowed him to integrate into society as well. Now, Gary, on the other hand, with him saying his ethics died in the cell, it seems him and Shay have come to similar conclusions in how they want to operate the Greyhounds and the upcoming war, conflicting with who Tevin agreed with, which is Ian's ideals, which was passed on to Brandon Gale, and with Brandon giving up command, Gary now holds the power. We can see more reparee getting produced, but also more people getting sacrificed for orders. We often see Ian try to lead the man himself on the front line in order to get things done. They often dealt with the small fry, of course, but those Titans could have laid waste and had innumerable casualties with their numbers back in season 1. And even with the Kimyo in season 2 during the Greenland War, we get Ian taking charge, but also dealing with the largest of the beasts. Granted, there were only 2 Titan suits. Brandon had one of them, but it just goes to show the judgment and types of war that Ian had versus what we may get moving forward. We do know in the future that there is martial law, which will lead me to assume that Gary himself is one keeping the peace in times of turmoil, but a lot of things can slip through the cracks when you're not only at the top, but also on the rush to get to the end goal, ultimately turning the love he has into tyranny. Now, on to a different topic, we have Tevin and Shay versus Vaal. When they inevitably arrive to Vaal, Luis will still be alive, although he may be exhausted. If we take into account the time being shortly after 10 p.m., which would mean the night is still young, leading me to assume that we will have a even longer conflict between them. Vaal has made constant remarks of Shay being a threat, and even has a remark of asking if he should be expecting Tevin to come as well. When we look into the duality of Leo and Thanatos in regards to training, they couldn't be further from different. We could use the easy route, as Leo inherently trains himself to become a stronger version of himself, while Thanatos, on the other hand, takes in the pros gaining strength from others. However, when we take a look at their pupils, Leo teaches the Cubs about the blind side of talent, saying that a talent's greatest feature could be also their greatest fault. And when we take a look into Thanatos, back when Leo fought him, Thanatos was the most powerful Kimyo on the planet due to the amount of souls he absorbed to make himself stronger. Once Leo pierced his body, those souls ran rapid, and so his very strength became his very downfall. This would lead me to say that Leo teaches the Cub the value of being adaptable to any situation. Due to Thanatos being thwarted multiple times, he is very meticulous about his planning and the execution of those plans, which would be a trait that Vaal would inherit from his master, going to show the opposite of Leo teachings to the Cub. As the plan does not go Vaal's way, he loses his cool. In this fight, he would be completely overpowered by Shay, day, as we may even get a call back to the wolves gathering around Vaal. Next, we have new tech as well, which I need to compile a list of the tech used in Ordeal for the end of the season, because I'm doing the code explaining video. We have the scanner, which Eric used. It seems to be a holographic device that uses this chi signature of a certain object to determine its exact geographical location, as Tander can guarantee that it's right below them. Just going to show Brent providing us with more world building on talent object, which is one of the least actual explored topics in Ordeal. Now, let's talk about Merlin Stone. It allows someone to go into what is called the Merlin dimension that can house a kingdom, but can appear anywhere on the planet, based on how it can hide an entire army and the fact that void type talent realms haven't been truly explored completely. When it said it takes them to the Merlin dimension and they can come out anywhere, it reminded me of Magic from X-Men, where she can go anywhere but has to travel to Limbo first and then pop out to a different location. We then have the aspect of why Thanatos doesn't bring his Kimyo there to live in his own kingdom, which may mean the dimension isn't as big as one would think and may be almost filled to capacity with just his army. One thing I love is that it's a pocket dimension, which means that it exists on this plane in some facet, but the space-time continuum inside will be different. For example, the hyperbolic time chamber is a pocket dimension in Dragon Ball. It's represented on this plane as a doorway in Kami's Lookout, but the space inside is bigger than a typical room, and the time dilation is 1 day outside equals 1 day inside. The physics also doesn't have to apply there either, going to show the creativity that Brent could have with this dimension, which would lead me to believe that it exists everywhere at once, thus allowing Thanatos to connect to many places across the globe in particular. Now, I want to talk about Malhazar's tomb. It was said that Malhazar's tomb was sealed with a relic, however, Kane was unable to find it. We do know as more power gets released, the Kimyo has the option to grow bigger when they have the 4 great talent. When we look at Malhazar, he is a similar height to Thanatos. This could lead me to assume that before he discovered his powers was quote-unquote evil, he would use the ability. Having that link to Thanatos would allow him to have the relic itself respond. We do see Abel saying that if he is biologically connected, he would have to have a strong will as well in order to actively suppress Thanatos, which would lead me to assume that due to the unique connection between Malhazar and Thanatos, the item inadvertently revealed itself to Malhazar, maybe because he's related to him closely, in which he took the advantage. Similar to Shay, we will see Thanatos build up his arsenal, since we got the line that Malhazar won them another advantage. In Abel's case, he does don the body of Thanatos, meaning the relic would recognize Thanatos once the body achieves a certain level of chi, almost as if it is linked to Thanatos' very being. Next thing I want to talk about is Merlin. Obviously, he's a Kimyo. However, for him to bestow a gift to Thanatos that only responds to Thanatos' body will go to show a level of understanding that Kimyo has of Chi itself. We also stated earlier that he's neither good nor evil, going to show he's working to ensure Thanatos goes down the path that is ordained for him, or it could be as simple as Thanatos was the one to bring him back from the brink of madness. So much so that even if he is regarded as a force of good to a degree, he would still hold loyalty. This would also mean that Thanatos indirectly would have a link to the true king of Britain, which is Arthur, which could propel the kingdom into conflict at the time leading to the death of Merlin. Another thing about the Merlin dimension is that it could be barren. We do see he can hold an entire kingdom of people there, but in season 1, there was an army of undead. Upon his arrival, we do not see him sport the stone or anything of that nature, but it does not mean he did not use the stone initially to bring his army to that plane of existence. This could lead me to think that the land is barren, or in his pride, he believes that the entire world is meant for their race, not just some pocket dimension that is just an afterthought of that plane. Now, Merlin may agree to this due to the ridicule he faced in his earlier tellings, but also the ridicule that typical Kimyo faced back then. Great for Ordeal. Now, there are things that I do want to talk about with the art. First is the ring effect, as we see it shift and disappear into the Patamon clothing. But didn't have to do that at all, but it's amazing that he took time to. And also the environmental shots for Scotland was amazing as well. Seeing all the Kimyo outposts is amazing. Just going to show the amount of resources that KODE has, but the amount of time, people, and effort sacrificed for the piece of Kimyo outside of Leo Thomas himself. It gives a higher feeling to the world building of Ordeal. Now, I am adding a section. I may hate myself for this editing, but hey, I have some predictions. So the first is Shay and Tevin shit over Vaal to the point it makes him like fodder. It does not make him look bad since he's not at full strength and is at a disadvantage since the blast side of his talent has been exposed to the world, giving him an even bigger disadvantage. But with Shay splitting the moon, signifying that Vaal cannot hide under the gaze of night anymore, this will make the Declaration of War chapter have an even bigger impact. Since Thanatos can appear wherever he pleases before Vaal is killed, it will mean Thanatos will pull up to finally confront Shay, which would be a full circle moment for episode 112 for the season finale of season 2, which is typical for Brent's writing style. Since we are getting the running arc starting in a few weeks, this could mean that Thanatos, with his new acquired chi and his devil blade, may be the one to cut off Shade's arm in this conflict. Now, in order to make Shade Ronin, this will mean one of the cubs would die. Would you say it's Lewis, or should we bank on the Zom? Brent has been alluding to both for a while, so I'll leave that to you to debate down below. Now, besides that, solid A for this chapter. It's been your boy, Wolf Nara, Librarian of Cold Archives. Enjoy your day or night or evening. I'm out.